One thing we really have to pay attention to in a high energy efficient structure is the window. No matter how we do it, the window is always going to be an energy void in the house. If I have here in my construction an R36 wall, the window I put in here, and you see how much space that it takes up, is going to be a huge energy void no matter what I do. However, we have to have windows, we're going to have windows. So what we have to do and make sure is there's a key things we need to pay attention to when picking out our windows. One of the more common things I see is people saving money when they're putting their house together on their windows. Most good window companies that are out there are making high energy efficient windows, so you don't have to go searching for some specialty window out there. One of the things that has to be paid attention to though is the U value, or the U factor on a window. More people than not seem to be fairly familiar with what this is, but the NFRC has a label that they stick on every window so that the homeowner can be educated on what they're putting in. A typical home for minimum code construction is going to have somewhere a U value in between 0.30 and 0.35. One thing that kind of helps me understand it, since most of us understand R values, is a U value is simply just the inverse of an R value. So if I have a 0.33 U value window, I have an R3 window. So take that again as if I have in my wall R36, and then all of a sudden I've got this huge area that's now an R3. Again, that's the huge energy void. Even if we go to a typical wall construction with 2x4, just as they have insulation and an exterior of an R20, we're going from an R20 in minimum code construction down to an R3. What's available out there is you can get anywhere from an R5, well, the R3, all the way up to an R7. And it's important to pay attention to the different details, but usually you're going to have to go to something like a triple pane window to be able to get there. But a triple pane window is not a triple pane window, is not a triple pane window. It's the R value, and what we're figuring out in this window is the entire area, which includes this sash and this area around there. And one of the ways that we can increase that value is actually by filling these sashes full of foam. On these particular windows, we have a triple pane, we have a foam-filled sash, and these particular windows give us a U value of 0.13, and that averages about an R7. So I'm still transferring, even though that's fantastic relative to windows, I still am going from an R36 to an R7, but it's the best that I have available to me at this time. One other little thing that's important to pay attention to, well, there's two actually. The first one would be your solar heat gain coefficient. When your builder orders your windows, they're going to order the same, basically the same window, no matter where it places on the house. And taking just a few minutes of paying attention how your house is going to be situated, we take a lot of sun on the east and west sides of the house. That's in those kind of places we want to have as much solar heat gain, well, as much low E or different products on our window that is going to cut down on that direct heat gain during the summertime. In the wintertime, when we have something like this, a north-facing window, we want as little of that on the window as possible, because this house on a north-facing window will never get direct sunlight on it. So it's important that you step through, even if your builder's not aware of it, that you step through with them and say, hey, once we decide how my house is situated, I want to put the right windows in which direction of the house it goes on. The final thing that has to be paid attention to on a window is how much air transfers through the window. Now this is a fixed window, but pretend with me that this is either a double hung, a slider, or a casement window. Each window company actually can have rated how airtight that window is. And if we get with the builder grade construction window, what can happen is we're building an airtight house, and then we have these gaps that not only are losses for insulation value, is they also leak like a sieve. So if you if they don't put it on their product, this one is a 0.01. An average vinyl is going to be from a 0.20 to a 0.30. So there's a huge range out there, but the companies that are complying with and making airtight windows are actually going to be the ones reporting it. The next detail we have to worry about is how do we deal with this area in between our window and our rough opening. What is most commonly done in construction is we'll take a piece of fiberglass, we'll rip it down, and we'll stuff it around the window. But what the problem is just like we use fiberglass as our furnace filter, we're also putting fiberglass around here, which allows air to move right through there. And in speaking with different installers over time, is what they like to do is they smash it in there as tight as they can. And it makes sense in my head on how they would think that that would stop that air movement, because I'm smashing insulation in there really tight. But all you have to do is take apart a few houses, pull that insulation out, and see how dirty it is. Just like a furnace filter that hasn't been changed for a while, air is constantly transferring around that window. I've seen many $1,000 window get put in a house that still leaks like a sieve, Not because the window leaks, but because the installation was bad enough that all the air is coming around this window to the outside. So what we need to do in this situation is not necessarily worry about the R value, but to stop the air leakage. And in doing that, what we do is go around this rough opening and simply spray foam around this. But the type of spray foam we use is they actually make something specific for windows and doors, because if you use any kind of foam on this, what'll happen is, and you got to do it, most of us, one time we have to try it, is you go through and spray it, and it's actually going to end up bowing out your window. And if it's an operable window, most of the time you won't be able to open it anymore because you've sprayed that out. But again, most stores now carry something that's specific to a window or a door that you can spray foam in that doesn't expand to the same depth as most foam. Another important detail that we need to pay attention to is how we flash our windows. It doesn't have anything to do with energy, but it does again deal with the durability of the structure. When you drive down the street, take a look at some job sites after I show you the correct way to do this, and you'll see how often that it gets done incorrectly. The thing is you don't actually need directions on how to do it. You just need to first just stand back and apply a little bit of logic. Is any water that hits your wall is going to go down. So understanding that, we don't want to flash up on top and then work our way down. We want to start at the bottom and then work our way up. So before we place our window in here, we know that we still may get some moisture. We like to do a flex wrap along the bottom of our windows before we set it in. And then on the outside, we flash from the bottom, the two sides, and then the top. It's that simple. But go on any job site around town that you see some construction, and I understand it's one thing that you detail you just want to get through and do on the outside, but taking a step back and flashing it correctly is going to save you all kinds of problems for the future.